The night settled quietly over the city, wrapping the skyline in a cool haze as streetlights flickered on, one by one. Inside St. Jude Medical Center, everything moved as expected. The rhythm of routine echoed through sterile hallways. Nurses walked briskly beneath fluorescent lights. Doctors murmured over patient charts, and the soft beeping of life support machines pulsed steadily behind closed doors. It was the kind of night that felt predictable, calm, unremarkable. But then, without warning, a deep, violent crash shattered the front lobby. Glass trembled in its frames. Chairs skidded across the polished floor. A hollow, thunderous thud echoed through the reception area, like something immense had collided with the world itself. Everyone froze. A nurse dropped her clipboard. "What was that?" she whispered, eyes wide, as a security guard bolted toward the front entrance. He didn't make it in time. The glass doors exploded inward with a deafening roar. Shards rained down like ice, scattering across the white tile. From behind the wreckage, a dark silhouette emerged, broad, low to the ground, steady as stone. Gasps filled the lobby. It was a German shepherd, but not just any dog. This one was massive, jet black, its fur thick and dusted with dirt, muscles rippling beneath its coat with every deliberate step. Its eyes, cold, focused, scanned the hallway ahead. There was no panic in them, no rage, only purpose. The dog didn't stop. It walked through the lobby and disappeared down the main corridor as if it had come with a mission only it understood. The German shepherd moved with eerie precision, its nails clicking sharply against the sterile floor. Nurses and patients pressed themselves against the walls, stunned and unsure whether to scream, run, or simply stay still. Hospital security attempted to intervene, but the dog didn't bark, didn't growl, didn't charge. It simply walked steadily, like it had done this 100 times before. One of the orderlies stepped forward, arms out. "Hey, stop right there!" The shepherd didn't even glance his way. It passed him without breaking stride. Down the corridor it went, past doors and stations, ignoring gasps, alarms, and confusion. Its gaze was fixed on something far ahead, something unseen by everyone else. The staff scrambled behind it, calling in reports, trying to figure out how the animal had gotten through multiple entrances and checkpoints. But deep down, no one dared to touch it. Something about its presence felt different, like it didn't belong to the world outside, like it had come through the walls of fate itself. On the third floor, in room 207, silence waited. Inside, Nathan Cole sat quietly beside his daughter's bed. Her face was pale under the hospital's cold light. Machines beeped a dull rhythm behind them. He had stopped praying weeks ago. Hope had faded into silence. Then the hallway trembled with a new weight. A nurse cried out somewhere down the corridor. Nathan looked toward the door, just as it was flung open with startling force. And there it was, the shepherd. Standing tall in the doorway, chest rising and falling, eyes fixed, not on Nathan, but on the fragile girl lying motionless in the bed. It didn't move, didn't make a sound. It had arrived. Nathan rose from the chair as if in a trance, his knees stiff, heart pounding. The room was still, too still, except for the deep, steady breaths of the dog at the door. He hadn't seen Ranger in months. The farm was hours away, locked, fenced, guarded. And yet, here he was. Nathan's voice cracked. "Ranger?" The shepherd didn't respond. It stood like a statue, watching Emily. Dr. Marcus Everett, the attending physician, had just left minutes earlier after another hard conversation. "Nathan," he had said gently, "we've done everything we can. Emily hasn't responded to treatment, no brain activity for weeks. I think it's time we talk about letting her go." Letting her go. Those words echoed now like an unwanted hymn in Nathan's ears. He sat there for minutes after the doctor left, unable to move, his hands limp in his lap. The sterile smell of antiseptic seemed stronger than usual, suffocating even. His daughter, the light of his life, his only child, was slipping further away. And there was nothing more he could offer. No deal to make, no promise to bargain with, just silence. He had poured everything into saving her. Savings gone. land mortgaged, every possible specialist consulted, and still she lay before him, silent and unchanged. Nathan turned toward the dog. "How did you find her?" He didn't expect an answer, but standing there, seeing Ranger's eyes locked on Emily's still body, something stirred in him. A flicker. A question he hadn't allowed himself to ask. Was this a coincidence? Or something more? The shepherd stepped into the room, slow and deliberate. Nathan instinctively reached out, unsure if he should stop him, but didn't. Ranger pattered over to Emily's bedside and sat down. For a long moment, no one breathed. Then he gently laid his head on the edge of the mattress, right beside her hand. Nathan's throat tightened. Something was happening, something the doctors couldn't explain. He stared at Ranger as if seeing a ghost. The last time he saw that dog was before winter, back on the farm where Ranger had always belonged. Strong, loyal, intelligent. But more than that, he was family, especially to Emily. The memory came back, uninvited. Years ago, a brutal snowstorm had rolled in faster than any forecast predicted. Winds howled like wild animals, and the cold was so sharp it bit through wool and leather. Nathan had been out checking the fences, making sure the sheep were secure, when he saw something curled near the edge of the pasture, a shivering ball of fur, barely alive. He almost left it, almost. But Emily, just 7 years old at the time, was waiting on the porch when he returned, her eyes wide as she spotted the pup in his coat. "He's freezing, Daddy," she gasped, pulling the bundle into her tiny arms. "We have to help him." Nathan had tried to explain the odds. The pup probably wouldn't make it through the night. But Emily didn't listen. She wrapped him in her blanket, fed him warm milk, and sat by the fire with him all night. Against every expectation, the puppy survived. Emily named him Ranger. "He's brave," she said, petting his ears, "and he always finds his way back." And she was right. He grew up strong, protective, devoted to her like no other creature Nathan had ever known. Now, years later, that same dog, her dog, was sitting beside her hospital bed, watching over her once again. Nathan's hands trembled. How had he come all this way? And more importantly, how had he known? Ranger sat quietly at Emily's bedside, his head resting near her hand. He didn't bark, didn't whine. He simply stayed still, like he knew this was sacred ground. Nathan stood frozen, barely breathing. The monitors beside Emily continued their soft, methodical beeping. For months, those numbers had been lifeless, stable, but unchanged. Then something shifted. The heart monitor flickered, just once. A nurse passing by paused and glanced at the screen. She stepped closer, puzzled. "Did you see that?" she asked. Nathan didn't answer. His eyes were locked on Ranger. Then it happened again. A flutter, a spike in the pulse. It was subtle, but unmistakable. The monitor blinked with quiet insistence, as if the very air had thickened. The digital lines pulsed, not like mere data, but like a whisper from another realm, a heartbeat too delicate, too intentional to be coincidence. There was something sacred in that flicker, something no machine could fully explain. The nurse leaned in. "Could be just artifact," she muttered, half to herself. "Machine interference happens sometimes." But Nathan knew better. He felt it. In his gut, in his bones, in the place deep inside a father that never stops hoping, even when everyone else has. He stepped closer, eyes glued to the screen. The rhythm wasn't wildly different, but it was different, alive, like something dormant was waking up. Another nurse entered the room, followed by Dr. Everett, who was quickly briefed. "Vitals are fluctuating," the nurse told him. "Slight, but noticeable." Dr. Everett frowned. "It's likely just random neural firing, reflexes. Her condition hasn't changed." Nathan turned to face him. "And what if it's not? What if she's trying to come back?" The doctor sighed, voice heavy with worn-down hope. "Nathan, I understand, but I've seen this before. It's not a sign." But Ranger lifted his head then, just slightly, and let out a single deep breath, a low huff that seemed to cut through every word of doubt in the room. To Nathan it was clear. The dog knew something they didn't, Just animal studies, a few theoretical applications. Too risky, they said, too unpredictable, but I've seen it work once, maybe twice. Just enough to know it can. Nathan looked up, eyes narrowing. You're saying there's a chance? Foster hesitated. I'm saying there's a door, one no one else wants to open because what's on the other side is uncertain. The brain, it's not a machine, it's a maze. Sometimes you send a spark in and all it does is light a corner. Other times, it burns the whole maze down. Nathan didn't blink. What would you need? Foster glanced at Emily, at the pale girl who hadn't moved in weeks, and at the silent sentinel by her side. Her weight, full med history, and complete neuroscan data, and I'll need access to a secure lab, off the books. You'll have it, Nathan said, already reaching for his phone. Ranger let out a soft huff, his head still resting beside Emily's hand. Foster watched the dog for a long second. I don't know how he found her, he murmured, but I'd wager whatever brought him here, it wasn't chance. Hours passed in a flurry of hushed coordination and quietly opened doors. A second opinion neurologist was discreetly flown in, a favor from an old military contact. Equipment was wheeled into room 207 under the guise of a routine monitoring enhancement. Nurses and residents were rotated off the floor under a pretense Nathan didn't bother to hear. What mattered was that by 3:18 a.m., the compound, coded MN47, was ready. Nathan stood in the corner of the room, his fists clenched so tightly his nails bit into his palms. Foster prepped the syringe with steady hands, the liquid inside faintly glowing under the dim light. We do this, he warned quietly, and there's no going back. She might not respond at all, or she might wake up for minutes, hours, days, then fade again, or she could come back different. I don't care, Nathan said. If there's even a chance she can find her way back, I'll take it. Foster nodded once. Nathan stepped closer and touched his daughter's hand. Cold, still, but somehow not gone. Ranger looked up, ears slightly twitching. His eyes locked with Nathan's for a brief moment, steady, unwavering, almost as if giving his own nod. Foster injected the compound into the IV. Silence fell like a curtain. The machines kept their rhythm. 1 beep, 2, 3. Then something shifted. Not the machines, not at first. Emily's fingers moved. So small, so subtle, but unmistakably alive. Nathan gasped. Did you see that? Foster was already moving, checking vitals, scanning monitors. Neural response climbing, slightly. Theta wave flickers, something's happening. Then her eyelids fluttered. Nathan froze. And slowly, like a rising sun breaking through cloud cover, Emily opened her eyes, not fully, not wide, but enough. Enough for Nathan to stumble forward, grabbing her hand, whispering her name like a prayer from a man who never prayed. Emily, it's me, it's Daddy, I'm here. Her lips parted, breath shallow, eyes unfocused. But she was there. Tears flooded Nathan's face. Before he could stop them, Foster was already calling for additional help, rerouting equipment, shouting orders with calm authority. And Ranger? Ranger stood up. For the first time since entering the room, he wagged his tail just once, and pressed his nose gently to Emily's palm. A weak twitch of her fingers met his fur. Nathan sobbed out a laugh. She knows him. She knows him. Doctors and nurses streamed into the room. Alarm sounded, not from panic, but protocol. But amidst the chaos, one truth stood still like the eye of a storm. Emily was alive. Awake. Foster moved Nathan aside briefly. This isn't over, he warned. She'll need stabilization, imaging, neurological monitoring, and even then, we don't know if this is temporary or something more. But Nathan barely heard him. All he could see was his daughter, her chest rising with breath, her fingers curling weakly toward Ranger's muzzle, her eyes fluttering again, this time toward him. "Daddy," she whispered. The room froze. Nathan sank to his knees. "I'm here, sweetheart, I'm here." Foster stepped back, his voice low. "I've seen a lot of things, Nathan. Ghost stories, combat miracles. But this—" Ranger stood by the bed, his body relaxed for the first time since his arrival. His job for now was done. But something lingered in his eyes, something old and sacred, as if he hadn't just walked across miles of farmland, broken through gates and shattered glass, as if he'd crossed something far greater, a boundary not of land, but of time and soul and spirit. Nathan held his daughter's hand as machines beeped with new life, and when he looked at Ranger again, he whispered the words that had lived dormant in his heart for so long. Thank you. Outside, the sky was beginning to lighten. The first rays of dawn spilled over the city skyline, chasing away the haze. It was a new day, and somehow, against everything the world had decided, Emily Cole had found her way back, because something had come for her, and it wouldn't leave without her. If this tale moved you, if you felt the tension, the heartbreak, and the triumph, please support our channel by hitting the like button and subscribing. Your support means the world to us and helps us bring more thrilling, emotional, and inspiring stories your way. Leave a comment below and let us know what you think. Do you believe dogs have an extraordinary sixth sense? Share your thoughts and personal stories with us. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.